Omar had built his entire life on numbers, business deals, and endless meetings. His name was known across the city as one of the richest men, someone who could change the future of a company with a single decision. But behind the expensive suits and powerful image, Omar was simply a tired man. His life felt like a machine moving from one deal to the next, leaving little room for warmth or emotion. The only thing that softened his heart, though he rarely showed it, was his daughter, Nadia. She was 9 years old, with bright eyes that carried both innocence and wisdom. Nadia had been born with a condition that left her in a wheelchair. Omar loved her deeply, but he often struggled to express it. He was always busy, always distracted, and Nadia often felt the silence of her father more than his love. One Friday evening, Omar decided to take Nadia out for dinner. It was rare for him to step into small places, but that night, instead of going to a luxury restaurant, he turned into a family-style diner on a quiet street. It was simple, with wooden tables, warm lights, and the smell of freshly baked bread. Nadia's eyes sparkled as soon as they entered. She liked the cozy feeling. Omar chose a corner table and adjusted Nadia's wheelchair beside him. A young waitress approached them with a gentle smile. Her name tag read Maya. She had kind brown eyes, her hair tied neatly back, and her voice carried a softness that immediately calmed the room. "Good evening," Maya said warmly. "Would you like to see the menu?" Nadia looked up shyly. Omar gave a small nod, too tired to answer fully. Maya crouched slightly to meet Nadia's eye level. "And what about you? Do you like pasta? Or maybe soup?" she asked kindly. Nadia smiled for the first time that evening. Omar noticed it but stayed silent. When their food arrived, Omar tried to help Nadia eat, but his phone kept buzzing on the table. A business partner wanted answers. With one hand on his phone and the other on the spoon, Omar grew impatient. Nadia struggled, the spoon slipping from her hand. Her small fingers trembled, and her eyes lowered in embarrassment. Before Omar could react, Maya appeared quietly. She knelt beside Nadia and said gently, "Would you like me to help you?" Her tone was respectful, not pitying. Nadia nodded slightly. Maya carefully held the spoon, guiding it with patience. She spoke to Nadia softly as if they were old friends, telling her small jokes and asking about school. Nadia giggled, and for the first time in days, she ate without stress. Omar put down his phone and watched. There was something unusual in this moment. He had seen many employees in his life: servers, staff, assistants, but rarely had he seen someone give their heart so naturally. Maya didn't see Nadia's wheelchair, she only saw the little girl's bright spirit. When the meal ended, Nadia whispered to Maya, "Thank you. You are very nice." Maya smiled. "You are welcome. You're strong and smart. I just helped a little." Omar cleared his throat. "The bill, please," he said, his usual formal tone returning. But inside, his thoughts were not calm. He couldn't stop thinking about what he had witnessed. A waitress, someone living a life completely different from his, had shown his daughter more care in a few minutes than he had managed all week. It wasn't that he didn't love Nadia, he loved her more than anything, but somehow, Maya had reached her in a way he hadn't. When Maya brought the bill, Omar found himself asking, "How long have you been working here?" "Almost 3 years," Maya replied politely. "It helps me take care of my brother." There was no pride in her voice, no complaint either. Just a simple truth spoken with quiet strength. Omar nodded, but inside, his mind was full of questions. As they left the diner, Nadia looked up at her father. "Baba," she said softly, "can we come here again? I like Maya." The words struck Omar's heart. His daughter rarely asked for anything, and now, she had spoken with such clarity. He looked down at her, his chest tightening with emotions he couldn't describe. "We will see," he replied, his voice controlled, though his mind whispered, yes. We will come again. That night, when he put Nadia to bed, Omar sat beside her longer than usual. She fell asleep with a small smile on her face, and he realized it was because of Maya's kindness. He leaned back in the chair, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in years, he questioned himself. Why had it taken a stranger to bring such happiness to his daughter? The thought stayed with him like an echo, long after the house grew silent. Omar, the billionaire who had solved countless business problems, now faced a question he didn't know how to answer. And somewhere in the small diner across town, Maya finished cleaning the tables, unaware that her simple act of kindness had already begun to change someone's life forever. The following week felt different for Omar. His business was running as usual, meetings filled his calendar, and numbers filled his mind. But every now and then, when his thoughts wandered, he remembered the quiet smile on Nadia's face at the little diner. He remembered Maya kneeling beside her, feeding her with such patience, speaking as if Nadia was the most important person in the world. It had been a long time since Omar had seen his daughter so happy. On Thursday evening, after another long day at the office, Omar drove past the same diner. At first, he told himself it was only coincidence. But his hand slowed on the steering wheel, and before he realized it, he had parked in front. Nadia, sitting beside him in her wheelchair, looked at the glowing windows with delight. "Are we going there again?" she asked, her voice bright. Omar gave a small nod. "Yes. If you like." Inside, the familiar warmth of the restaurant welcomed them. And there she was, Maya, carrying a tray of plates, her steps light and steady. When she noticed Nadia, her face lit up. "You came back," Maya said happily as she approached their table. Nadia beamed. "Yes. I wanted to see you again." Maya laughed softly and bent down to greet her. "Well, I'm glad you did. I was hoping I'd see my little friend again." Omar watched quietly, but his heart was not quiet. He wasn't used to this, watching his daughter connect so quickly with someone. He had always assumed Nadia's quietness meant she preferred to stay alone. But here she was, opening up, laughing, even asking questions. As they ate, Maya sat for a moment, telling Nadia a funny story about her younger brother who once burned toast 3 times in a row. Nadia laughed so hard her eyes sparkled with tears. Omar found himself smiling too, though he quickly hid it behind a sip of water. After dinner, while Nadia was busy drawing on a napkin with the crayons Maya had given her, Omar spoke quietly. "You seem to have a way with children," he said, his tone thoughtful. Maya shrugged gently. "I just try to listen. Sometimes, that's all they need. Someone to hear them." Her words stayed in his mind. Listening. How often did he truly listen to Nadia? He provided her with the best doctors, the best schools, and all the comforts money could buy, but had he really listened? The visits became a pattern. Every few days, Omar found himself taking Nadia back to the little diner. It wasn't about the food anymore. It was about the way Nadia's face lit up when she saw Maya. One afternoon, Omar had a free hour between meetings. Instead of going back to his office, he picked Nadia up from her lessons and drove straight to the diner. When they entered, Maya was arranging flowers in a small vase. She looked up and smiled warmly. "Back again?" "Yes," Nadia answered before her father could speak. "Because I like it here." Maya pulled out a chair and sat with her. They began to talk about Nadia's favorite colors, her favorite books, and even her dreams. Nadia confessed that she wanted to travel one day, to see mountains and oceans. Maya listened carefully, encouraging her with gentle words. Omar sat back, watching. A strange mix of emotions filled him: admiration, guilt, and something softer he could not name. He realized he had never heard his daughter speak about her dreams in such detail. She had always been quiet around him, as though afraid her thoughts would not matter. But with Maya, words flowed easily. That night, back at home, Omar sat in his study long after Nadia had gone to sleep. His office was filled with awards, certificates, and photographs of business success. But none of them gave him peace. Instead, he thought of Nadia's laughter in the diner, and Maya's gentle words. The next weekend, when they visited again, something unexpected happened. A family at the next table noticed Nadia struggling to reach her glass of water. Before Omar could react, Maya walked over and helped her with the same patience as always. The family whispered among themselves, admiring Maya's kindness. Omar felt a surprising swell of pride, not in himself, but in watching how someone so ordinary in the world's eyes could hold such extraordinary warmth. After paying the bill, Omar paused at the counter. "You've made my daughter very happy," he said quietly. Maya looked at him, her expression soft but steady. "She makes me happy too. She's a special girl. You're lucky to have her." The words touched something deep in Omar's heart. He walked out with Nadia, but all the way home, her words echoed in his mind. "You're lucky to have her." That night, as he tucked Nadia into bed, she whispered, "Baba, I like how Maya talks to me. She doesn't look at my wheelchair. She just looks at me." Omar kissed her forehead gently. For the first time, he realized that love wasn't about giving the best doctors or the finest schools. It was about presence. About listening. About seeing Nadia the way Maya did. And so, without even planning it, Omar's world began to change. The billionaire who once measured life in numbers was now beginning to see life through the eyes of his daughter and the kindness of a simple waitress. The evenings at the little diner became a comfort for both Omar and Nadia. For Nadia, it was laughter, stories, and a friend who saw her beyond her wheelchair. For Omar, it was something harder to explain. Each visit reminded him that life was more than meetings and profits. Watching Maya with his daughter opened doors in his heart that he had kept closed for years. But behind Maya's cheerful smile, Omar began to sense something more. There were days when her smile looked a little tired, or when her eyes seemed far away, as if carrying a weight she never spoke of. One rainy night, Omar and Nadia visited again. The diner was quieter than usual, only a few customers scattered at the tables. Outside, the rain tapped against the glass windows, and the street was shiny with reflections of the dim lights. After dinner, when the rain slowed, Omar noticed Maya leaving work. She wore a thin coat, carrying two heavy grocery bags in her hands. The sight made him pause. The billionaire who was used to seeing drivers, assistants, and staff around him suddenly saw something simple yet striking: Maya walking alone under the gray sky, holding all the weight herself. Impulsively, Omar told Nadia's driver to pull over near the curb. "Wait here," he said before stepping out with an umbrella. "Maya," he called gently. She turned, surprised. "Oh, Mr. Omar. You're still here." He held the umbrella over her head. "It's late. Let me give you a ride home. You shouldn't walk with these in the rain." Maya shook her head quickly. "Thank you, but I'm fine. It's not far." Omar's eyes dropped to the heavy bags. "They look far too heavy for one person." Her lips curved into a small smile. "I'm used to it. But, if you insist, maybe just a little help." Without another word, Omar took the bags and walked beside her. They reached his car, where Nadia was waiting. Her eyes lit up when she saw Maya. "Are you coming with us?" Nadia asked happily. Maya laughed softly. "Just for a short ride." Inside the car, Nadia chattered the whole way, telling Maya about a book she had been reading. Maya listened carefully, nodding and asking questions, her attention never wandering. Omar drove silently, watching the way his daughter opened up with ease. It was a sight he never grew tired of. Finally, they stopped in front of a small apartment building on a quiet street. The building looked old, its walls faded, but neat. Maya thanked them and reached for the grocery bags. "Wait," Omar said. "Let me carry them upstairs for you." She shook her head again, embarrassed. "No, you've done enough." "Really?" But Omar's voice was gentle yet firm. "Please. I insist." Reluctantly, Maya allowed him. Together, they climbed the narrow stairs. On the second floor, Maya unlocked a small door. Inside, the apartment was simple but clean. A few books on a shelf, neatly folded clothes on a chair, and a warm smell of soup from the kitchen. "Maya, you're home." A boy's voice called. A teenager appeared from the kitchen, carrying a stack of school books. He had the same brown eyes as Maya, filled with energy and hope. "This is my younger brother, Sammy," Maya introduced. "Sammy, this is Mr. Omar and his daughter, Nadia." Sammy greeted them politely. "Nice to meet you. Thank you for bringing my sister home." Omar noticed how Sammy's school books looked worn, the pages bent from long use. But the boy's face glowed with excitement. "You study hard?" Omar asked. "Yes, sir," Sammy said. "I want to be a teacher one day." Maya placed the groceries on the small kitchen counter and turned with a smile. "He's very serious about it? Always reading?" As they spoke, Omar understood a little more. Maya was not just working for herself. She was holding her small family together, supporting her brother's dreams while carrying all the responsibilities. She had no driver, no servants, no staff to make things easier. Yet she managed with grace, never complaining. When it was time to leave, Maya walked them back to the car. The rain had stopped, and the air smelled fresh. "Thank you again," Maya said softly. "For the ride and for carrying the bags." Omar looked at her for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "You do a lot for your brother. It's admirable." Her eyes lowered slightly, but there was pride in her voice. "He's all I have. I promised our parents I'd take care of him. So I will." Omar nodded slowly. He wanted to say more, but for once, he couldn't find the right words. Instead, he simply said, "Take care, Maya." On the drive home, Nadia was unusually quiet, deep in thought. Finally, she said, "Baba, Maya works very hard. She doesn't even rest." Omar's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "Yes," he answered softly. "She does." That night, while the city slept, Omar sat by his desk. His papers and contracts lay untouched. His thoughts were filled with the image of Maya, carrying heavy bags in the rain, smiling through her struggles. He realized something: strength was not only in power or wealth. Sometimes, true strength lived in the quiet sacrifices people made every single day. And as the rain clouds faded outside, Omar knew his life was no longer the same. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, Omar's routine began to change. Where once his evenings were filled with endless business calls, now he found himself making time to take Nadia to the small diner. It was no longer just a place to eat, it had become a place where Nadia's laughter came alive. Maya always greeted them warmly, and Nadia's eyes sparkled whenever she saw her. The bond between the two grew stronger with each visit. Omar noticed it in the way Nadia leaned closer when Maya spoke, the way her shy voice grew brighter when sharing stories. One Saturday morning, Nadia surprised her father with a request. "Baba," she said softly, "can Maya come with us to the park today?" Omar looked at his daughter, startled. He had never invited anyone from outside his circle into their personal time. But the hope shining in Nadia's eyes was impossible to ignore. "We can ask her," he replied finally. That afternoon, Omar approached Maya after her shift. "Nadia would like you to join us at the park tomorrow," he said in his usual formal tone. Maya blinked in surprise. "Me? Are you sure?" Yes, Omar said simply. She insists. The next day, the park was alive with children running, families laughing, and birds singing in the tall trees. Nadia sat in her wheelchair, her eyes scanning the bright scenery with excitement. When Maya arrived, dressed in a simple blue dress and a white scarf, Nadia clapped her hands. "You came," she exclaimed. "Of course I came," Maya replied, kneeling to hug her gently. "I couldn't miss this." Together, they wandered through the park. Maya pushed Nadia's wheelchair carefully along the paths, pointing out colorful flowers, playful squirrels, and even a butterfly that landed near Nadia's hand. The little girl's face glowed with joy. Omar followed a few steps behind, watching quietly. He wasn't used to feeling this warmth in his chest. His daughter's laughter, echoing like music in the air, was something he hadn't heard in so long. At one point, they stopped by a small lake where children were feeding ducks. Maya handed Nadia a piece of bread. Together, they tossed crumbs into the water, giggling as the ducks waddled closer. Omar stood by, his lips curving into a smile he didn't even notice forming. Later, they sat on the grass under a wide tree. Nadia leaned her head against Maya's arm, her eyes heavy with contentment. Omar looked at them, a strange thought entering his mind. For years, his life had been about building empires of stone and steel, yet here, in this simple moment, he felt richer than ever before. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in soft orange and pink, Maya stood up and stretched. "Thank you for inviting me," she said kindly. "This was very special." "It's us who should thank you," Omar replied quietly. His voice was softer than usual, almost unsure. On the way home, Nadia couldn't stop talking. "Baba, did you see the ducks?" And Maya showed me the butterfly. It was the best day. Omar listened, his heart swelling. He realized how much Nadia needed this kind of happiness moments beyond doctors and lessons. She needed people who made her feel seen and loved. From then on, Maya became more than just a waitress they met at a diner. Omar began inviting her to join them for little outings, sometimes a walk in the park, sometimes an afternoon of reading stories together. Maya never acted like it was an obligation. She was natural, full of warmth, and her presence always made Nadia shine. One evening, after dropping Maya home, Nadia spoke softly in the car. "Baba," she whispered, "Maya talks to me like I'm not different. Like I'm just me." Omar's throat tightened. He reached out and squeezed her hand. "That's because you are just you," he said, though inside, he knew those words had been missing from his own lips for far too long. As weeks passed, Omar's colleagues began to notice changes in him. He no longer stayed late at the office every night. His answers during meetings were shorter, his mind sometimes far away. Some thought he was distracted, but Omar didn't care. For once, his life was not only about success. One evening, as he watched Maya read a storybook to Nadia in the park, Omar realized something important. This young woman, who lived in a small apartment and worked long hours to support her brother, had given him and his daughter a gift no money could buy: genuine joy. The billionaire who once believed the world could be controlled with wealth was now learning that the greatest treasures were found in small, simple acts of kindness. And though he hadn't said it aloud, Omar knew, his life, and Nadia's life, were changing in ways he had never imagined. Omar's life was changing quietly, though he did not speak much about it. The man who once lived only for meetings, conferences, and phone calls now found himself rearranging schedules to make room for his daughter. Every evening with Nadia and Maya reminded him of the life he had forgotten, one that was filled with small joys instead of constant pressure. But change never comes without questions. At the office, Omar's business partners began to notice his distractions. He missed a few late-night calls, something he had never done before. During meetings, his answers came slower, his thoughts wandering. One afternoon, his longtime associate, Mr. Rahman, pulled him aside. "Omar," he said firmly, "you are not yourself these days. The company needs your full attention. Investors are watching. You cannot afford to lose focus." Omar straightened his shoulders, his face calm. "I am focused," he said, though his heart told a different story. That night, back at home, he watched Nadia sleep peacefully, a small smile still on her lips from the evening they had spent with Maya. His mind was torn between two worlds: the demanding empire he had built with his hands and the simple warmth he found with his daughter and the young woman who had entered their lives unexpectedly. Meanwhile, Maya was carrying her own worries. She continued to smile for Nadia's sake, but inside, her heart was heavy. Her younger brother, Sammy, had recently received an offer for a scholarship at a school in another city. It was a golden chance, something he had dreamed of for years. But moving away meant expenses: new books, uniforms, living costs, and Maya had no idea how to manage it. One evening, after walking Nadia through the park, Maya sat quietly on a bench while Omar stood nearby. He noticed her silence and asked gently, "Something is troubling you?" Maya hesitated. "It's nothing, really. Just Sammy's school opportunity. It's a blessing, but also difficult. I don't know how we will manage the costs." Her voice was calm, but Omar could hear the weight in it. His instinct was immediate: he wanted to help. After all, money was never a problem for him. But when he opened his mouth to offer, Maya shook her head quickly. "Please," she said softly. "I don't want charity. I've worked hard for everything we have. I can manage." Omar paused. For the first time in years, his wealth felt useless. Here was a situation he could solve with one signature, one check, but Maya's dignity stood taller than his money. He respected that, though it left him restless. As days passed, the tension in both their lives grew. Omar's partners pushed him harder, reminding him of upcoming projects. "This is no time for weakness," Mr. Rahman warned. "If you slow down, others will take your place." But Omar's heart was no longer in boardrooms. His true joy now came from hearing Nadia laugh with Maya, or watching her eyes shine when they told stories together. Still, he knew he couldn't walk away from his responsibilities. One evening, while dropping Maya home, Omar finally spoke. "If you ever need help, even a little, I want you to know, you don't have to face everything alone." Maya looked at him for a long moment. Her voice was gentle but firm. "Thank you. But I need to stand on my own feet. Sammy needs to see that hard work can build a future. If I accept too much, what lesson will I give him?" Her words humbled Omar. He admired her even more for her strength, though it left him helpless. For a man who could buy skyscrapers, he had never felt so powerless. Later that night, Nadia noticed his silence. "Baba, why are you so quiet?" she asked. Omar smiled faintly. "I was thinking about Maya. She is strong, isn't she?" "Yes," Nadia replied brightly. "She makes me feel strong too." The words touched Omar deeply. Maya was not only shaping her brother's life, she was shaping his daughter's as well. The turning point came when Omar missed an important business dinner because Nadia had begged him to join her and Maya for a simple picnic in the park. His partners were furious the next day. "You risk too much for personal distractions," one of them warned. But Omar only smiled quietly. For the first time, he didn't feel guilty. Something inside him had shifted. That evening, as he watched Maya help Nadia pick flowers, Omar realized the truth. His old life had been filled with wealth, but it had been empty of meaning. With these two by his side, he felt something stronger than power: he felt human again. Yet, even as joy grew, Omar knew challenges were waiting. His world of wealth and Maya's world of struggles were so different. Could they ever truly meet? The question hung in the air, waiting for an answer that neither of them was ready to give. The days continued to pass, and the bond between Maya, Nadia, and Omar grew stronger. Nadia, once so quiet and shy, now spoke with joy and laughter whenever Maya was around. Omar, too, felt a lightness he had not known in years. But behind the happy moments, worries still lingered. Omar could not stop thinking about Maya's struggles. He remembered her tired smile, her simple home, and the heavy responsibility she carried for Sammy. Every time he watched her laugh with Nadia, he thought, she deserves more. She deserves a life without so many burdens. One evening, after a long day, Omar made a decision. He asked his assistant to prepare a scholarship fund for Sammy, quietly arranged under the boy's name. That way, Maya would never have to worry about expenses. It was a simple matter for a man of his wealth, and to Omar, it felt like the right way to show his respect. But sometimes, even good intentions can build walls instead of bridges. The next afternoon, when Maya came to the park with Nadia, she was unusually quiet. She had just received a letter from the school office. Inside was the news that Sammy's fees had been paid in full, covered by a private sponsor. Maya had asked questions, and it had not taken long to discover that the sponsor was Omar. When she saw him waiting by the park bench, her heart felt heavy. She appreciated his kindness, but something about it unsettled her. Maya, Omar greeted with a small smile. You look worried. Is something wrong? She hesitated, then asked directly, did you arrange Sammy's scholarship? Omar met her gaze without denying it. Yes. I didn't want you to carry all the burden alone. He deserves his chance, and you deserve some peace. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Maya shook her head slowly. You shouldn't have done that. Omar frowned. Why not? I only wanted to help. Her voice was calm but firm. Because it feels like pity. Like I can't stand on my own. All my life, I have worked to prove that I can support my brother. If you take that from me, what do I have left? Omar was taken aback. He had not expected anger in her voice. It is not pity, he said softly. It is respect. Respect for the sacrifices you've made. You should not think less of yourself just because someone wishes to ease your path. But Maya shook her head again. You don't understand. You live in a world where money solves everything. In my world, money is not just money, it is pride, it is effort, it is the story of our lives. If you take that away, what lesson will Sammy learn? That his sister could not manage without someone powerful stepping in. Omar's heart sank. He had only wanted to help, but now he saw how deeply his gesture had wounded her pride. Nadia, sensing the tension, looked between them with wide eyes. Why are you both upset? She whispered. Maya quickly bent down to smile at her. Nothing, sweet one. Don't worry. But her smile did not reach her eyes. That evening, when Omar dropped Maya home, the silence in the car was heavy. As she stepped out, she turned back briefly. Thank you, Mr. Omar. But please, don't try to solve my life with your money. Let me fight my battles. That is who I am. Then she walked away, her steps firm, leaving Omar staring at the empty seat beside him. That night, Omar sat alone in his study, his thoughts restless. For the first time, he felt the weight of his wealth not as a blessing, but as a barrier. It built walls where he wanted to build bridges. All his life, money had given him control. But with Maya, it only pushed her further away. He realized then that if he wanted her respect, he had to offer more than wealth. He had to offer something he rarely gave anyone: his heart, his honesty, his humility. The next day, Nadia noticed his silence. Baba, Maya didn't smile the same way yesterday, she said softly. Did you make her sad? Omar's chest tightened. Perhaps I did, he admitted. Nadia reached for his hand. Then tell her sorry. You always tell me to say sorry when I hurt someone. Her simple words cut through his pride. Omar realized that his daughter was right. If he truly wished to keep Maya in their lives, he needed to break the walls his wealth had built. That evening, Omar sat by his window, watching the city lights. For once, the tall buildings and shining streets gave him no comfort. He thought only of Maya's hurt eyes and her quiet strength. In that moment, he made a promise to himself. If he wanted her trust, he would have to stand before her not as a billionaire, not as a man of power, but simply as Omar, a father, and a human being who was learning what love really meant. The following days were quiet. Maya still came to the park with Nadia, but the warmth between her and Omar had faded. They spoke politely, but the laughter and ease they once shared seemed lost. Omar felt the distance every time she avoided his eyes, and it troubled him more than he cared to admit. One evening, after dropping Nadia home from school, Omar made a decision. He could no longer allow silence to grow between them. He wanted Maya to know the truth of his heart, not hidden behind money or gestures, but in simple, honest words. He asked Maya if she would meet him after her shift. She hesitated, but finally agreed. That night, Maya walked into the quiet cafe where Omar waited. He had chosen a small table near the corner, away from curious eyes. He stood up as she entered, his usual confidence replaced with something softer, almost nervous. "Thank you for coming," Omar said gently. Maya nodded, sitting across from him. Her face was calm, but her eyes showed caution. "Why did you call me here?" Omar took a deep breath. "Because I owe you something, an apology. I see now that what I did for Sammy hurt your pride. That was never my intention. I only wanted to ease your burden, but instead I made you feel small. For that, I am sorry." Maya listened quietly, her hands folded on the table. His voice carried no pride this time, only sincerity. "I have spent most of my life solving problems with money," Omar continued. "It is the only language I knew. But you have shown me another way. You stand tall, even with heavy responsibilities. You do not ask for help, not because you don't need it, but because you value dignity. That strength humbles me, Maya." Her eyes softened slightly, though her lips remained pressed together. Omar leaned forward, his tone quiet but firm. "I do not want to build walls between us. I do not want you to think I see you with pity. I see you with respect. And more than that, I see you with admiration." He paused, his voice lowering. "And perhaps something deeper." Maya's heart skipped a beat at his words. She had not expected such openness from him. "Omar," she began carefully, "our lives are very different. You live in a world of wealth and power. I live in a world of simple struggles. How can those two worlds ever fit together?" Omar smiled faintly. "I used to think wealth gave me everything. But the truth is, it gave me comfort, not meaning. Since you entered my life, I have begun to feel something I thought I had lost: hope, warmth, and family. My world is large, Maya, but empty without real connection. You bring light into it. And I want to protect that light." Her eyes filled with quiet emotion. She wanted to believe him, but doubt still lingered. "And what if one day you tire of my simple ways? What if my life feels too small for you?" Omar shook his head. "Then I will make my life smaller. I will sit in your world, not drag you into mine. Because what I want is not luxury, it is truth, it is heart, it is you." Maya's lips trembled, her defenses breaking. For so long, she had carried every burden alone. Hearing his words felt like a door opening to a future she never dared to imagine. But before she could reply, Omar added gently, "I will not force you to accept me. I only wanted you to know how I feel. If all you ever want from me is friendship, then I will give it gladly. But if you let me, Maya, I would like to stand beside you, not as a billionaire, but as a man who cares deeply. Tears welled in Maya's eyes, though she quickly wiped them away. For the first time, she saw Omar not as a powerful figure, but as a father, a man, and a soul searching for love. She smiled softly. You know, Omar, I never asked for help because I thought it would make me weak. But maybe, true strength is also knowing when to accept a hand that is offered with honesty. Omar's chest filled with relief. Does that mean? Maya nodded slowly. It means you don't have to fight for my trust anymore. You already have it. At that moment, Nadia came running into the cafe, her little feet pattering quickly across the floor. She had slipped away from the driver who had followed behind. Baba! Maya, she cried, hugging them both. Did you stop being sad now? Omar laughed softly, placing a hand on his daughter's head. Yes, little one. No more sadness. Maya hugged Nadia too, her heart warm. For the first time in years, she felt she was not standing alone in her struggles. She had found not just support, but a new family. That night, as they walked out together under the quiet stars, Maya glanced at Omar. A new beginning, she whispered. Omar smiled, his heart light. Yes, Maya. A new beginning for all of us. And so, the billionaire who thought he had everything discovered that true wealth was not in money, but in the simple gift of love, trust, and the family he had always longed for.